everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. Today's session gives you an introduction to equity valuation methods or stock valuation methods in general, and depending on how you look at this topic, sometimes there are additional valuation methods, but the most basic approach would be to look at three basic methods to evaluate stocks or shares, which is first intrinsic valuation. You may be familiar with this. This is basically where you calculate the present value of future expected cash flows. We are focused on cash flows here because it's very hard to evaluate a company, try to put a price tag on every single building, every single intellectual property, every single employee, and try to find a way to evaluate or value a company. So what we are focused at is we say we don't care how the company operates. We look at the company as a black box, and we only look at what the company generates, what type of cash flow they generate. And depending on the size of the cash flow, we value the company, which makes it easy to compare different companies and also makes it easier without putting a price tag on every single building, production line, raw material, and so on, which we can't do because where do we start? Yeah, so intrinsic value is all focused on future expected cash flow that the company generates in the future, and then we discount because we want to know what the value in today's terms look like. There are two main methods. The first one is DCF, discounted cash flow. And here what we do, we use either the free cash flow to the firm approach, which gives us the free cash flow that is available to shareholders plus debt holders. So what we do, we basically calculate an enterprise value, and then based on the enterprise value, we calculate our equity value. Yeah, we basically deduct net debt, basically the debt portion, because we are concerned, because we talk about equity valuations, we are concerned about the equity value and the value for shareholders. Yeah, so this is free cash flow to the firm. Sometimes we use free cash flow to equity approaches. I will come to this in another video, which only looks at the free cash flows to shareholders, or equity holders is the same, where we don't need to do the adjustments because we derive at an equity value right away. Then the other one is DDM, which is dividend discount model. And here again, we assume the cash flow to shareholders in many cases can be the dividends that companies are paying. So we say, okay, if a company pays regular dividends, then this is a good starting point because it is a kind of cash flow. So we just use the dividends to basically derive to a valuation. If the company does not pay any dividends, then we need to use the DCF. Yeah, these are intrinsic valuations because we only look at the company internally. It's intrinsic based on their performance, based on their cash generating capabilities. That's basically how we define the valuation. Second part, I wouldn't say it's real valuation. It's more a kind of pricing exercise. It's called comparables. Sometimes we call it multiples. And if you look at comparables, what it does, there are two different approaches. First one is trading comparables. also called comps, looks at how similar companies are traded at which price. So it looks at, okay, company A has sales of 100 million, is traded at 10 million valuation. Then if our company has half the sales, we could expect the company to be traded as half of the valuation. There are a few comparables we are using. For example, price to earnings, enterprise value to EBITDA, price to sales, price to book value, and so on. So what we are doing, we compare earnings, EBITDA, sales, or book value of companies. We look at what is the price for those companies, and then we basically just compare them and see, okay, if this company is twice as big in terms of book value or in terms of sales, then we would assume the company trades as a similar amount in terms of valuation, or half the amount or double the amount. Another comparables is called precedent transactions, or transaction comparables. Sometimes called M&A comps. And here what we do is we are not looking at the company itself, we are looking at, okay, what has happened in previous mergers, acquisitions, or transactions. If we know, okay, a private equity company has bought another company for 10 million, and we believe our company is twice as big or twice as valuable, then maybe the price tag should be 20 million. Basically, we look at the same or similar figures: enterprise value, EBITDA, enterprise value, sales, sometimes premiums paid for controlling deals. So we are looking at similar, but not from a company perspective. We are looking at, okay, what was the price paid for the companies? So EV to EBITDA, EV to sales, and then premium paid. So EV would be previous transaction. Yeah, and EBA is then the other company that we use to compare with our EBITDA figure. And number 3 is a more sophisticated option, which is called options methods, and there are a few different approaches. It's basically where equity is valued as a put option on debt, which we will ignore here for the time being, because in practice focus is definitely on DCF, sometimes DDM, and then especially for private equity, a lot of comparables as well. Thank you so much for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.